Hi, hello, and welcome back to a podcast where I talk about going from corporate drone to corporate dropout as a fitness coach for gamers in both the fitness and gaming industry. You know it, you love it. Welcome back to Chaos and Fuckery. And on Tuesday, we talked all about overconsumption in the fitness industry and the differences between business owners who need the sponsorships and the affiliate links and things like that to gain extra money in their business versus the consumers who really don't need any of the things that any of the fitness influencers or fitness coaches are shilling. However, now we're going to talk about overconsumption culture in the gaming industry because it's a little bit different. And it's a lot more expensive. To be an overconsumer in the gaming industry is constantly buying games, constantly buying new tech, constantly upgrading your stream gear, constantly needing the perfect, aesthetic setup for stream. And I don't see nearly as many gaming products marketed to me as I do fitness products. And I feel like that's just because there's not as wide of a variety, but you best believe the minute I, click on something, I can't even pull it up, it's too far away from me, related to Elgato with my little stream deck or the little Elgato foot pedal or the green screens, I am getting all things Elgato. I'm getting all the tech gear. But because I am also, just a creator in general, I get a lot of tech gear. DJI, Rode, Elgato. I'm trying to think. The people who talked about Joy-Con. That is one thing that I do get marketed a lot is off-market Joy-Cons. Because Nintendo Switch had such a big issue with drift, people are constantly looking for new Joy-Cons. And honestly, getting the off-market ones just make it worse. So I don't know why you would buy a cheap Joy-Con and inevitably have to buy new Joy-Cons all over again. But that is one product that I see a lot of. However, I believe more so than the actual gear and streaming setups and desks and chairs, because dear Secret Lab or Respawn or someone, please sponsor me. I need a new chair so bad. I am hoping Respawn has a refundable sample or something on TikTok shop here soon because I would love to get a new chair. My chair is literally falling apart at the moment, and I don't like the fact that our gaming products, specifically ones that are big deals like this chair, like our chairs, right? The ergonomic aspect. I have an ergonomic mouse. I have a wireless keyboard. I buy a lot of things, and you've got a lot of the keycap switching and creating custom keyboards that people will constantly buy new things for. It keeps consumers in the market without having to have new games coming out of all the time. But truthfully, I think the bigger overconsumption, and I clearly am guilty of this. I wouldn't say I'm guilty of it, but I do collect, is collectors. Whether it be tabletop gamers that have a lot of the figurines and are constantly printing or painting or building new worlds for their tabletop games, whether it be Pokemon cards. Look at the scalping industry when it comes to Pokemon cards. How often do you see cards packs that should be going for $1, $2 at most going for $200-$300 because of collectors? In the more Disney character kind of world, you've got things like Loungefly. I have a few of them. I try not to overbuy Loungeflies too much, partially just because space is a thing. I try to only buy characters or ones that I'm going to use. There are a few, like this Stitch one that I have in my background here, that I get very nervous using because they're very colored and I'm a mess and I don't want to ruin them. So I've never used that Stitch one. But the overconsumption culture, I think, in gaming comes in either peripherals or the three things: collectibles, peripherals, and Steam library. Steam sale will get the best of us all, and it's currently going on as I'm recording this right now. But peripherals, I think, is honestly one of the worst components to overconsumption culture. As a gaming business owner, what sponsorships, what companies would be ideal for me to work with? Companies that have components to PC parts like Corsair and Intel and AMD and things like that. Those are really big companies, but not impossible to get small creator sponsorships with. That would be beneficial to my business because people are constantly upgrading their PCs. Whether they need to or not, people are buying PC parts pretty regularly. So working with a company like Newegg or things like that would be great for a gaming content creator. From the consumer's perspective, it helps you get a discount discount, and you get a kickback back to the creator who is working with them. Cool. That's a good partnership between consumer and business owner that, you know, people are actually buying the products that they need there. They're not really over consuming. Where you get the over consuming piece, in my opinion, is when you start selling, you know, webcams and controllers, custom controllers, or headphones, things that you don't need very often, right? Or you don't need at all. Custom controllers. I think custom controllers are cool. I almost bought one. The company was not great. And I think that's where I get into peripherals maybe are an overconsumption problem. They have tried to mass produce off-market custom controllers rather than painting controllers that are actually bought from the companies. And you get into an issue where your controllers may just not. And you now spent $300 on this custom controller for a controller that normally would cost maybe $60, and now it just is a decorative piece. You can no longer actually use it to game, and in some cases of custom controllers, they don't seal the paint jobs properly, or they're just wrappers, if you will, around the original controllers, and they start to peel and, you know, with the oils on your hands and whatever, break apart, and then you don't have good quality and things like that. The custom controller world seems to be lacking in quality control, but oftentimes people will flock to it and buy consistently more and more controllers so that they have either enough controllers for friends at home, a custom one for every console they own and for their PC, and things like that. Sales on games will create digital overconsumption, where we have Steam libraries that are 500 games long and we haven't touched any of them in 2 or 3 years, just purely because they were on sale. But I don't have as much issue with like digital overconsumption, because digital clutter is simply that, digital clutter. You can keep it, you can do with it what you wish. It's not really taking up any physical space, and it's not going to a landfill when you don't inevitably use it anymore. It just sits on your computer and you can play it when you want to. Digital environments or digital environments. I'm not too big on that. The consoles are expensive enough that people aren't constantly recycling through them, so it's not really an issue. And almost no one is sponsored by these console companies. I think I've seen I've seen a few people in the like millions of subscribers that have been sponsored by the Pokemon company or Nintendo themselves. But even then, you have to be very careful with those types of sponsorships and the type of content you create, because you don't want to leak that, you know, you do things Nintendo definitely doesn't want you to do, in order to keep maintaining that relationship with Nintendo and the Pokemon company. So the biggest item, in my opinion, when it comes to overconsumption culture in the gaming industry, I'm surrounded by collectibles, plushies, Funko Pops, U2s. What else do I have around me? Little droids. Let's see. Pokemon cards, obviously, is a huge, people are constantly buying to get their next pull, and they're not necessarily, you know, building packs to give away to kids who actually want to get into it and things like that. They're just hoarding all of these things. Let's see. Loungefly, in the world of me, who is a big Disney fan, mini ears. Let's see, what else do I have around here? Big collectibles, I have a Kingdom Hearts key. Squishmallows, I've got a few up here that you can't necessarily see. Blind boxes, oh my god. The gaming industry, but also just, you know, the theme park nerd culture, if you will, blind boxes are taking the world by storm. And I think those are one of the most overconsumption heightened moments on the planet. You will, in fact, spend triple what you probably would have normally to get an entire set of a blind box. And this is why I don't allow myself to buy more than one of a certain blind box if it is a limited time blind box, so that I don't end up spending, you know, $200 trying to get the blind box. And, you know, there are communities where you can trade these things, and oftentimes you can trade them with the employees at the places that you buy these things if you do have duplicates, but you end up getting duplicates almost inevitably, unless you learn some of these blind boxes do have secrets to them where you can look at barcodes or weights or whatever. In the case of, you know, Disney Munchlings, it was the cents originally. But then it also leads to people also ruining the product, where they'll open it to try and find out who is inside. There's a blind box for How to Train Your Dragon right now where you open the little barrel and there's a little dragon plushie inside of the different dragons, and people have been finding empty ones. This need to finish these sets for collectors has created this giant culture of people constantly buying and, scalping them, and you never actually get to enjoy the hobby of collecting. If you are a true collector, I have no problems with you. I clearly am a true collector of Funko Pops. This whole wall behind me, there is probably over 100 Funko Pops. And I have several that are exclusives that, now go for hundreds of dollars and are chase items. And I even picked up a chase item at MegaCon. However, I am a collector. I have no intention of reselling any of these. I didn't buy 500 Figment popcorn buckets to try and resell them on eBay. I didn't even buy one because I'm not a popcorn bucket person. However, when it comes to the need to have all of these things, these companies keep putting out blind boxes. These companies keep putting out spirit jerseys. That is another one. It's a clothing item, right? These companies have put out, these baseball jerseys now because people, especially when it comes to exclusive events, will go and buy them. When it comes to gaming collectibles, pins and, exclusive versions of the games you already own because you wanted, the new rendition. I have bought Kingdom Hearts. If you include my parents buying me the original set of games when I was a kid, I have bought it three times, because I did the 1.5, 2.5 remix on PlayStation 4, and then I will eventually, and then I bought Kingdom Hearts 3, obviously, but I haven't bought that more than once. The 1.5, 2.5 remix I will have bought twice because I wanted on Steam, and it wasn't originally available on Steam when I bought it. But 1.5 and 2.5, I had bought 1 and 2 as a kid. So by the time I buy it on Steam, it will be 3 times over because I wanted, it on different consoles or different renditions of the game as they continue to remaster it. With remasters, that is an overconsumption thing in the gaming. You want these games, rather than making them compatible, we're just going to remaster them so that you can have that nostalgia back for you. I have the Spyro remaster as well. And that is a way the gaming community definitely is getting you to come back. Look at Nintendo, right? They remastered Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild for the Switch 2 so that they just run more efficiently. They added a little tiny extra pieces to it so that you can justify spending, the extra $10 or whatever it is to get the expansion for those 2 games, and so that they run more efficiently. You have expansions to Kirby, which is an older game at this point. You have an expansion to Mario Party Jamboree, which just came out not too long ago, but now you're getting a DLC expansion to justify, buying it for the Switch 2. So that is a way gaming creator or gaming companies, but gaming creators, I don't see as much of product shilling, if you will, as I do in the fitness industry. It is not as lucrative for me as a gaming creator to, take sponsors to make my money up. Right? You can get sponsored by games, which is kind of a funny line. I've noticed a lot of, game sponsors for gaming creators. They don't actually want to play the game most of the time. It's usually not a great game. You could have something like Factor, where, you're talking about how you're a busy gamer and you're editing all the time. You don't really have the time to cook. I've seen a lot of that. Another common sponsorship I've seen amongst gamers is headphones. Raycon, I think, is one that I've seen more recently. Cool. I would love to see, a blue light blocking sponsorship. And I think that would go well for me as a gaming and fitness creator to talk about both. Like this company that I worked with to get mine, I didn't work with them, but I bought mine through. Would love to see them sponsor a gaming creator rather than just fitness creators, because I found them through a fitness creator. But the products that gamers are typically buying, aside from the collectibles, aren't usually something that you need to repeatedly buy, which is why you've seen the rise of gamer-focused supplements like Advanced, G Fuel, Gamer Sups themselves, Dubby, because they wanted to provide affiliate programs for gamers themselves and focus on the unique needs of gamers. Cool. Awesome. I like focusing on the unique needs of gamers, especially as someone who blurs both lines. However, you didn't need any of those products. They already existed in the space. They just have come up with a unique version of things to make it seem like you needed those products. You still don't need any of those products, even as a gamer versus, the fitness version. None of those supplements do you need. Can they be useful sometimes? Sometimes. I love Advanced Sleep Formula. It is the only sleep formula I have done well with, and I've tried many of them. So sometimes they get it right. But the real overconsumption, in my opinion, in the gaming world is, nerd culture, collectibles, Pokemon cards, plushies. I got red for filth when I was in Honolulu and I tried to buy a Pokemon plushie that was apparently from Tokyo and was also apparently directly from the Honolulu Pokemon Worlds. It was a $120 Pikachu plush. That is absurd. The collectible world isn't even just let's buy a bunch of stuff and sell it to people. It's let's buy a bunch of stuff and act as if these plushies are worth $120 just because they're collectible. Insane. So while I don't think the gaming industry overconsumption is as mass produced as the fitness industry, it is more expensive. They will constantly convince you, and this is why I still call it overconsumption even though it's not as mass produced. They will constantly convince you that you need these things. They will convince you that you need a new chair. They will convince you that, you need the gaming specific one. Look at the gamer chairs, right? They will throw gamer as a target on, a supplement, a chair, a product line, right? These are just blender cups, but because they're focused to this company and they're gamer focused, I got this one for free, but point being, you don't need 5 bajillion blender cups as the fitness influencer or as the, I've seen people who are sponsored by Helamix and they have a whole cabinet of Helamixes. Why? You don't need any of that. And, I know I get with influencers, they get a lot of it for free. Still, but why? Why do you need to send that many things? Send one to them so that they can market efficiently. And, if they create their own product with you, send that to them. But you don't need to send them every new product in, like physical plastic items. When it comes to supplements and things like that, yeah, send them every new flavor. Sure. Or, if you're working with Funko, have them pick out a few of their favorite characters, but you don't need to send them every drop, right? Because I wouldn't want every Funko. Like, I'm a huge Funko collector, but I would never want every Funko. And with plushies, maybe we don't start, I was trying to buy a plushie for, a 5-year-old who is obsessed with Pokemon and getting into the collectible world, and I was not buying a $200 plushie for a 5-year-old. Right? It's pricing kids the way the collectible industry is going. It's pricing kids that want to get into it and parents of those kids out of the fun of just collecting and being a part of these communities. And I think that's my biggest issue. It's not that people are buying these things or the creators are surviving off of buying these things, because it's a lot harder to actually make money off of sponsorships and affiliate links and things like that in the gaming industry because people aren't buying them as often. But when it comes to the collectible stuff that I don't see affiliate links as often, it is impossible to be a parent with a young kid who wants to get into this and compete against these adults that are spending all of their money to scalp and raise the prices of these things that are rare collectibles. And obviously rare collectibles are going to be more expensive, but not having any normal price options for kids who aren't understanding that, this is just a plush to them, but to us adults, it's a rare collectible. They're going to wonder why their parents don't want to allow them to be a part of this, community. And I see it big with Pokemon, but I also see it in other communities like Disney, right? The Disney World, you've got Dreamlight Valley creators, you've got Kingdom Hearts, you've got a whole bunch of different video game people that also become theme park people as well. And the the certain merch with certain characters, Baymax, Stitch, and I think this has led to the overconsumption of Stitch merch, the overproduction of Stitch merch in the Disney world is because no one could find Stitch for very long, and then he became a whole big thing. So the problem I see is less, people buying things they don't need in the gaming industry, because yes, there is a lot of, we have to have the perfect setup in the aesthetic kind of gamer world and buying tech that you don't need. I am notorious for buying tech I don't need, and I'm not going to say I'm not. I will buy cameras. I like to upgrade my equipment a lot. I have literally a closet currently, and a lot of it was gifted to me, but a closet full of photography gear, whether it be, tripods, a monopod, lighting gear, and useful stuff if I have a studio, but not, in my home as a vlogger. And I bought my little camera that I'm recording on now when I had a full DSLR because it was more convenient to buy a small form factor camera than it was to buy all of the cabling and pieces to utilize my DSLR as a stream camera. And that's wild. There are so many, Canon will charge you to connect your camera to your computer, which is insane. Why? And that's the other thing I think, gamers in the industry are getting read for filth on is subscription-based tools that they need to do their job as creators. Right? Premiere Pro, I refuse to give Adobe any more money, and I went with DaVinci because I would love to use Premiere Pro, but I'm not spending, I can't just buy the fucking software. And, there's analytics tools like vidIQ and TubeBuddy that allow you to evaluate your videos and your SEO and things like that if you're not super familiar with it. There's, thumbnail creation tools. Some are free, some are not. If you use Canva, you're probably not getting much from free Canva. If you want to create thumbnails in something like GIMP, then it's completely free, but you're on your own on learning how to do all of that and creating good thumbnails. Whereas with, software like Adobe Express and Canva, you have some templates that you can start with and try to play around with. And so you've got that. You've got, taxes, you've got paying, editors, and the tools that you have to do your books with if you're not just using something like PayPal or whatever, all extra subscriptions. And I think that's just business overconsumption in general. But we are getting to a point where physical products are being bought way too often. Subscriptions are the new norm, and I don't like any of it. I'm tired of it. And as a gaming creator, sponsorships are not as easy as a fitness creator, in my opinion. And, selling product is not as easy as a fitness creator. However, the products you do shill are 10 times more expensive than they usually are in the fitness industry. And or if in a rare case you get, some sort of sponsorship with a collectible, you're selling people that are likely going to scalp them and buy tons of them so that the kids can't get into the hobby anymore. And that's my issue with gaming overconsumption. It's not just, you don't need it, because no collector needs the things in their collections. It's a collection. But anytime you open the door to a collector, you also open the door to a scalper. And now people who actually want to be genuine collectors can't, because so many people are obsessed with buying all of these things and selling them for absolutely disgusting prices. I believe Switch 2s are already going for disgusting prices as, scalping, because a lot of stores are selling in person only to try to avoid online bots buying up the entire stock, like what happened with the PS5 and original Nintendo Switch releases, which is a good thing. I think it is a good thing that stores are doing that. But scalpers are a bigger issue than overconsumption in the gaming industry. Is there some overconsumption? Yeah. There's always, the supplements like I talked about, and there's tech gear, people buying tech gear that you don't need, constantly upgrading Elgato. I mean, I was watching a video the other day where some of these big creators had to purchase things as a part of their task, and they just randomly bought stuff on Amazon. One at least canceled his order because he's like, I have no need for any of this. I was just doing it as a part of the challenge. But the other one bought a $300 green screen that he doesn't need. So yeah, there is a lot of, we're going to buy things just because I can situation going on in the gaming industry. And I am kind of part of the problem. I have 5 bajillion different tripods and creator things, and I could probably downsize my setup pretty significantly if I really tried. I wouldn't say I would downsize any of my collections just because they're collectors. They're a collection. They're not something I bought out of I intend to resell or I intend to never use it. It is a collection. It is something that people buy me as a I thought of you kind of moment, and I'm okay with that. I don't plan on getting rid of any of this, and if I have kids, maybe some of it will get passed down, but for the most part, it's really just my nerdy culture, and I'm okay with that. But when it comes to constantly buying things, I'm not gonna do that. I pick these up every now and again when I see, unique ones or a character that I like. Whereas some people will buy them just so that other people can't. And that's the issue in nerd culture overconsumption, is buying it purely so someone else can't. And I don't know. would like to say that I'm never going to buy another tech peripheral that I don't need, but the reality is I'm constantly testing new equipment and upgrading things and sometimes downgrading things because I wanted to try something new, and it doesn't always work out. So sometimes you do run into, products that you have around that you're not using, and I should be better about gifting them, or I don't know. What can you do with tech products you don't use? Feel free to let me know what you do with your tech products that are older tech or whatever, because, one of the things I've been thinking about, do I need a laptop? No, I have two desktops and console. Like, I don't need a laptop, but because I plan on traveling more in the future, I'm thinking editing, right? And I was like, I could trade the iMac in for a new MacBook Pro, because I have a MacBook Pro, but it is ancient and, barely lasts for 2 hours at this point. My iMac, while not that old, is still too old to make a trade-in even really worth it, which is wild to me. And so I think a lot of gaming creators get into kind of that mood where they need their PC to do X, Y, and Z things, and they need this computer to do X, Y, and Z things, and they need this for this type of content and this for this type of content. And then we just get into, we're surrounded by all these tech things that we don't know what to do with. And that's me. I have a lot of tripods and gimbals and things like that because I try different things to see what works in my environment when I'm on the go and what makes me feel the most comfortable filming in public and things like that. And I think a lot of creators get into that problem, and we don't always know what to do with all of our tech equipment. Because some things you want to keep in case you want to use them in a different scenario later, and other things you just never need, and it's wild. But I don't see as big of an issue in the gaming industry with overconsumption. Does it exist? Yes. Do we need to get a handle on it? Absolutely. I see more of an issue with scalpers and pricing children out of being a part of the communities and being a part of collecting, because at the end of the day, that's how we bring new people and keep these things alive. Pokemon has lasted as long as it has because of the nostalgia and being able to bring kids in, and parents and kids, bonding over these things that have existed for years. And without that, we will lose some of our favorite parts of gaming and nerd culture, I believe. So we need to get a handle on parents being priced out of allowing kids, because at the end of the day, Pokemon is for everybody, right? We can go get cards and things like that. But if you're in it just to get a chase pull and sell it, maybe get out. Allow kids to actually have fun. Parents don't have a heart attack about buying, parts for their kids because they're now aware that, some of these things cost $200 to $300 in the real world. And I don't know, maybe you agree with me, maybe you disagree with me. Leave your comments in the comment section below, and I appreciate you for being here. On Saturday, we're gonna talk business, small business, whatever. Maybe we talk about overconsumption just in general from the business owner perspective. I don't know. Saturday is gonna be a whole new episode, and then next week we'll see what's going on fitness and gaming. I think we're gonna talk a little bit about this lawsuit that's going on between some creators and the David Bar Company, because I think it's very interesting when it comes to being able to, patent certain ingredients and products in these fitness world. And yeah, so I appreciate you for being here, and welcome to the chaos, and I hope you enjoy the fuckery.